Tomorrow, Saturday, is the International Day Against Nuclear Tests. In a virtual event on Wednesday to commemorate the day, the President of the General Assembly, Tijani Muhammad Bandi, emphasized that no one wins in a nuclear war and pointed out that any use of nuclear weapons would be a humanitarian and ecological catastrophe. The President called on everyone everywhere to support the ban on nuclear tests, adding that the event is a reminder that we need to be more resolute in the pursuit of our shared objectives. As we mark the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, nuclear disarmament remains as important as ever and must be our ultimate goal. Achieving a nuclear weapons-free world is a universal aspiration for ensuring peace and international security. The full statement is on our website, and I will provide a link in the elements. And you recall that the 31st special session of the General Assembly on the COVID-19 pandemic opened in July. The General Assembly has yet to decide on the modalities for substantive discussions on the topic of the special session, including its date and any other matters concerning the organization of the session. Because these matters will require more time for consultations, in his capacity as president of the special session, Mr. Tijani Muhammad Bandi placed under silence procedure until Monday at noon a draft decision suggesting that the effective upon the opening of the 75th session, the president, vice presidents, and chairpersons of the main committees of the 31st special session shall be the same as those of the 75th regular session. The president also circulated a letter from Mr. Yashar Aliyev, permanent representative of Azerbaijan to the United Nations, and Ms. Louise Blaise, deputy permanent representative of Canada to the UN, the co-facilitators overseeing the consultations on the modalities for the organization of the special session. The letter conveys the zero draft resolution on the modalities, including the scope, format, date, and outcome. The co-facilitators invited the membership to the first informal virtual consultation on the draft resolution on Monday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And under silence procedure until Monday at 5, the president placed a draft decision on the question of equitable representation and increase in the membership of the Security Council. According to the draft, the General Assembly would decide to immediately continue the intergovernmental negotiations on Security Council reform in informal plenary of the General Assembly at its 75th session, building on the informal meetings held during the 74th session. More information on the draft decision is available on our website. And this week, we've published on the PGA's website the concept note of the high-level meeting on the 25th anniversary of the 4th World Conference on Women, Beijing Plus 25, which will be held on Thursday, October 1st from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. This high-level meeting will be convened primarily in a virtual format. And on the technical side, the president circulated a letter from the Secretariat regarding the guidelines for pre-recorded statements for the high-level meetings of the General Assembly in September. The note is available on our website if you'd like to check it out. On Monday, the president will convene a virtual informal meeting of the General Assembly for the consideration of the annual report of the Security Council. After the meeting, the president will circulate a compilation of the statements delivered at the debate. And this compilation will also be forwarded to the president of the Security Council. And you may know already, but I wanted to share here, it gives me great pleasure to inform you that my colleague, Brendan Varma of DGC, will serve as the spokesperson for the president of the 75th session. So please let me know if you have any questions. A question from Pamela. Please,
yes.
Pam.
Hi, Reem, and thank you for the work you've done. It's Pamela Falk from CBS News, as you know. My question is about the general debate And that is when will I assume protocol is issuing a list of speakers sometime next week on the general debate. When will you know and when will they know if a head of state or any representative of a country will send a pre-recorded message or appear in person? And what are the protocols for someone who is appearing in person? Is there a number of maximum people to appear in person? And how will the climate high level be dealt with? So those are a few. Thanks so much.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Pam. For the list of speakers, so as you know, the inscription for the list closed on Friday, last Friday. Our colleagues in the Department for General Assembly and Conference Management, DGACM, are working now to compile this list, and they will announce it soon as announced before by the end of this month. So very soon they will share the list. But the list will not indicate if we assume that heads of state and government and also the officials who will be participating in the high-level week will be sending pre-recorded statements. We will not know in the list, it will not indicate if there is a head of state of government that wishes to be physically present in the General Assembly Hall. So this will be up to member states to announce, and I'm sure they will be contacting the usual partners in the Secretariat to inform them ahead of time. But for the office, we will, I don't have this information, and I don't expect to have it soon with the list.
But just to follow up, will you know? You will know, or the secretariat will know if a country doesn't send in a pre-recorded and tells you. Is there a way you can inform us as countries tell you, or protocol, or the secretariat that they will be in person? Is there a way you can let us know?
I will check with the Secretariat. Because, of course, there are arrangements member states will have to arrange with the Secretariat on this. I will check with them and I will let you know about any information that will be available.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, and Iftikhar, please.
Thank you, Reem. Great job you've done, and wish you good luck in your future assignment.
Thank you.
All I wanted to know, there was an interruption on my line, and I couldn't follow the decision on the Security Council reform. Would you please repeat this?
Yes, absolutely. So the president placed under silence procedure until Monday at 5 p.m. A draft decision on the question of equitable and representation and increase of the membership of the Security Council. I will share with you the link right after the briefing.
Okay.
In this draft decision, the GA would decide to continue the negotiations in an informal plenary during the 75th session.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. And Edie, please.
Thank you very much, Reem. I have two questions, actually. On the list of speakers for the general debate, it usually says in parentheses who's speaking, who's going to speak, the head of state, the head of government, ministers. Is this list going to also state who is going to be speaking for the government? And why don't you answer that, and then I have another question.
Yes, absolutely. It will be like any other list of speakers for past years. It will indicate who will be speaking.
Okay, and secondly, can you tell us how the transfer from the 74th to the 75th session is going to take place? Is it going to be virtual? Are missions going to be invited to have their ambassadors present in the General Assembly chamber?
Yes, absolutely. So as you know, of course, the closing of the 74th session and the opening of the 75th will be on the same day, September 15. And so discussions are going on right now on how the format of this, how will it be? And before we decide on the format, virtual or in person, we have to seek a risk assessment from the medical office of the United Nations. So we will let you know as soon as this risk assessment is finished and we know exactly, I will keep you posted for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I see Toby, thank you for your message, but do you have a question? Okay, maybe not.
No, thanks, Reem. Just saying thank you. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
It.
Appreciate it. Any other questions, please?
One, Reem. I don't think you see me in the chat.
No, I didn't. Please go ahead.
Margaret, hi.
Hi, Meg.
Hi. For the length of the high-level week, is it going to be longer this year? Is it not going to be a week? I've heard perhaps it's going to stretch out over more days. And also, go ahead, just answer the question for me.
So the general debate itself, we have all the dates posted online, and I can share with you after the briefing. The general debate itself will not stretch, but maybe you're referring to when we had the decisions adopted to space out some of the high-level meetings, so they will not be at the same time as other meetings for technical reasons, and also to limit the presence of individuals and officials in the staff and the President of General Assembly's office and so on, the building. So as you do remember that we have now the Biodiversity Summit was the date was changed, and also the case for the Beijing Plus 25. So those were, the date was changed just to accommodate the situation we're in right now. I send you all the dates.
Okay, thanks. And about the side events, will there be some decision perhaps to make them all virtual, or will those also be sort of a hybrid of virtual and possibly some people in person?
So the president is encouraging all member states or all organizers to have the side events on a virtual platform. So more information will be coming, of course, on if some of them will be hybrid or virtual, but of course the encouragement is to be virtual to mitigate, because we're still in a pandemic anyway. Okay, Abdelhamid?
Thank you, Reem. I'm sorry I came late, but I want to ask you, when is the press conference of the president?
Yes. Thank you. The press conference for the president will be on September 8th at 11 a.m.
September 8th. The other question I have, did the new president, the GA 75, elect or assigned the 18 vice presidents? I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Maybe someone needs to mute their mics. Yes, can you hear me now? Okay, so yes, of course, we have the vice presidents elected already. I will send you the link after the briefing. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, absolutely. And Pam, you have a follow-up?
Yes, Reem, thanks. Just a logistics question on what you said. When heads of state have their video tape playing, their ambassadors are in the GA hall, correct?
Yes, correct.
And that means that only the ambassadors of the speakers that day are allowed, or every ambassador? And will each delegation just get one person? How does that work? Thanks.
No, absolutely no. All membership will be represented in the General Assembly Hall by one or two delegations. This will be decided closer to the date of the meeting, but only one or two.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Dulcie, please.
Hi, Reem. So the virtual meetings, the side event meetings of the high level week, will they be public?
Of
Can we watch
course.
them? Yeah, all
Yes.
of them? Okay.
Absolutely. If a side event is intended to be open, it will be public on web TV, for sure.
Oh,
As
so
the
there will
case
be,
in previous, yeah. In
right,
previous,
so there will be some closed meetings.
there might be if member states have something. It's the case. It will be the same as the previous sessions. No other change in this for closed or open meetings.
Okay, and then I think I've asked you this before, but all these videos obviously are not going to be in English, all the heads of states, right?
Absolutely, yes, but there will be interpretation.
Simultaneous?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what system are you using to do that? Because the Security Council doesn't use that system, doesn't have the simultaneous translation system.
Yeah, but we had the interpretation in some other events of the GA already, and we have experimented with this, and it was very successful. I will send you more information about this for sure.
Okay, because a lot of us don't speak Russian or Ukrainian.
No, absolutely, it will be available. The interpretation will be available.
Right, and we can't rely on their missions to disseminate the speeches.
No, I can tell you for sure that interpretation will be available, and we had events before with the interpretation, and we'd like to thank the Secretariat for working very hard to ensure this and facilitate this.
Okay, so it sounds like things are going to go smoothly.
Absolutely, we hope so. And Edie,
Right.
please.
Yeah, a follow-up on that. If the vast majority or virtually all of the speeches during the general debate are going to be pre-recorded and virtual, I am putting in a request, I am sure, on behalf of every single person here for copies of those speeches to be available simultaneously, since there should be no problem having the time to need to translate them or whatever.
Absolutely, I will forward your request. And Dulcie, I'm sorry, did I cut you off? Did you have any other questions?
Well, actually, on top of Edie's question, so making these speeches available as the leaders speak, making the speeches available in English as the leaders speak. Whose job? What department at the UN will be handling that?
Yeah, it will be our colleagues in the Secretariat in DGACM. We will reach out to them and make sure that we can support you in every way possible. And of course, with the close collaboration with Stéphane's office, for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Gloria?
If the head of state or other dignitaries will have a meeting with the Secretary General, will there be a limit on the amount of the delegation that dignitary can bring with him to the meeting with the Secretary General?
I think maybe Stéphane will be best placed to answer this question than me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Any other questions, please? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a nice... yes, please.
Reem, I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your briefing. So besides Trump, are there any other leaders who are suggesting that they might show up for the meeting physically?
I don't have any information about any leaders that expressed interest or their wishes to be present or not. So I don't have this information. And as I mentioned briefly, Dulcie, that the list of speakers will not indicate. We expect all speakers, the officials, will be delivering their speeches over pre-recorded statements. but we don't have any information about otherwise till now.
Okay, so so you'll have this list available at the beginning of next week, you think?
Very soon. Our colleagues in DGACM are working on it.
Yeah, and do you have any confirmation from North Korea?
I don't have any information about the list till now.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Thank you so much. And I hand it over to Stéphane now.
Reem, thank you, shukran. And just want to say we hope to see you again before your term is over. And and thank you for all the great work you've done and the cooperation you've had with your office. And we congratulate Brendan and look forward to working with him as well as we worked with you. So Friday, I'm back in my undisclosed location, already missing the ones of I can't speak anymore. Anyway, missing the ones I was able to see yesterday and Wednesday. Earlier this morning, the Secretary General delivered the 19th Darbari Seth Memorial Lecture in India. It was, of course, delivered via video, given the time difference, pre-recorded video. The Secretary General, in his remarks, stressed that clean energy and closing the energy access gap are good business and that they are a ticket to growth and prosperity. He said continued support for fossil fuels in so many places around the world is deeply troubling and reiterated his call to all G20 countries, including India, to invest a clean, green transition as they recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. This means ending fossil fuel subsidies, placing a price on carbon pollution, and committing to no new coal after 2020, he said. He also noted that in India, subsidies for fossil fuels are still some 7 times more than subsidies for clean energy, and research on G20 recovery packages shows that twice as much recovery money has been spent on fossil fuels as clean energy. Mr. Guterres underscored that this strategy will only further economic contractions and damaging health consequences and urged for a clean recovery. He also called on India's innovators, entrepreneurs, and business leaders to spearhead the global search for solution to solo cooking at the household level and on the country's leaders to adopt the policies necessary to combat climate change. A quick update from our friends in Geneva, the Syria talks, which, as you know, resumed yesterday. The small body of the Syrian Constitutional Committee met again today and intends to meet again tomorrow. As the Special Envoy Geir Pedersen noted, there is a clear agenda for this session, and the discussions have been constructive. He added that useful points have been raised. And turning to the situation in Gaza, the Secretary General Special Envoy for the Middle East Peace Process, Nikolai Mladenov, tweeted today that the situation in and around Gaza is rapidly deteriorating. He said that militants continue to launch projectiles and incendiary devices. The tightening of closures is making life inside the Strip unbearable, with electricity down to 3 hours a day and hospitals barely functioning. Mr. Mladenov noted that while the situation in Gaza gets worse, there's a rapid increase of COVID-19 cases, with a failing health system, no electricity, unemployment soaring, continued militant activity and closures. He said that he is very concerned that escalation is imminent. Mr. Mladenov stressed that the Palestinian militants must immediately stop launching projectiles and incendiary devices. And he also said that Israel must restore fuel deliveries for electricity under the current circumstances. No mention efforts to prevent escalation, and no mediation efforts to prevent escalation and improve the situation can succeed in these circumstances. And turning to Lebanon, we, along with our humanitarian partners, are now seeking $344 million to help 300,000 people with immediate life-saving needs, as well as to help move the country towards recovery for the next 3 months following the Beirut explosions earlier this month. The flash appeal, which was initially launched on August 14th, has been revised downward to reflect operational realities and evolving needs. Aid agencies are focused on getting assistance to people who need it. Pledges from donors have been encouraging, but right now the appeal is only 17% funded. Beyond humanitarian assistance, Lebanon requires substantial and long-term assistance to support a reconstruction and economic recovery. And staying in the same area, at 6:30 p.m. this afternoon, the Security Council is meeting to announce the results of adoption of resolutions on the votes on resolutions on women in peacekeeping, the UN interim force in Lebanon, and the UN assistance mission in Somalia. Those results will be announced at 6:30. The High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, today expressed her deep concern over recent death threats directed at the Congolese human rights defender and Nobel Prize laureate, Dr. Denis Mukwege. Ms. Bachelet called for swift action to investigate who is behind the threats and bring them to justice. Dr. Mukwege, as you know, founded and runs the Panzi Hospital in the eastern part of the DRC. He has received threats in the past and survived a major assassination attempt in October of 2012. The recent alarming surges against threats against him have been conveyed by social media and in direct phone calls to him and his family. The threats followed his condemnation of the continued killings of civilians in the eastern DRC and his renewed call for accountability for human rights violations and abuses. And also from the DRC, we have an update from our resident coordinator and humanitarian coordinator, David McLaughlin-Carr, who said the UN team on the ground in DRC tells us that the measles outbreak in the country is now under control with a 90% drop in weekly cases compared to last year. 7.5 million children were vaccinated during the 2-year measles response campaign in the most affected area, an initiative led by national and local authorities. We, along with our partners and NGOs, contributed to the progress for vaccination, surveillance, case management, logistics, and strengthening of routine immunization. And in Madagascar, the UN Human Rights Office said it is very concerned by reports of excessive use of force by security forces at a jail recently when 22 inmates were killed and 8 injured. This occurred amid concerns that Madagascar's squalid and overcrowded detention facilities are a hotbed for the spread of COVID-19. More information on the High Commissioner's website. Also, moving on to Myanmar, to give you an update what our colleagues there are doing on the ground to fight the pandemic. The resident coordinator and humanitarian coordinator, Ola Almgren, is concerned about the spike of COVID-19 cases in Rakhine State. We, along with our partners, have reaffirmed our continued commitment to support Myanmar as it tackles challenges in Rakhine, including COVID-19. We have helped to increase preparedness for the pandemic in camps and sites for internally displaced people across the country by distributing hygiene and personal protective equipment and other supplies. In Rakhine, we, along with our partners, have also provided 30,000 face masks, dozens of hand washing facilities, food, water, sanitation, and shelter for nearly 700,000 people. The colleagues, and as well as a number of colleagues in NGO have tested positive for COVID-19 in the area. They are receiving treatment and contacts are under quarantine. Urgent work continues across the country, and we continue to apply prevention measures. Turning to an update on the number of devastating floods that have been hitting different parts of the world. Yesterday, Iftikhar asked me about Pakistan, and I can tell you that heavy monsoon rains and flooding have continued across Sindh province, impacting several districts. Local authorities and humanitarian organizations are providing aid to those impacted, while the military is carrying out rescue operations. We and the UN and the humanitarian partners are also supporting with needs assessments missions. And in Ethiopia, heavy rains continue to cause flooding in several parts of the country. Nearly 455,000 people have been impacted by the rains and forcing the displacement of 120,000 people. We are working in support of the government-led response efforts, providing food, shelter, non-food items, water, sanitation, hygiene to the impacted population, working alongside partners. At least 67,000 people have received emergency assistance. And in neighboring Sudan, heavy rains and flash floods since mid-July have also affected more than 380,000 people, killed nearly 90 across 17 states. More than 37,000 homes have been destroyed, forcing impacted families to seek shelter with relatives across communities. Also, many, many thousands of acres of crops have been lost. The government, UN agencies, and our partners are pre-positioned supplies to respond to the needs of 250,000 people before the rain started, but stocks are being depleted rapidly. More support, including from donors, is urgently needed. And this Sunday, August 30th, is the International Day of the Victims of Enforced Disappearances. In a message for the day, the Secretary General said that the crime of enforced disappearance is rife across the world. He notes that we see new cases almost daily, including the disappearance of defenders of the environment who are often indigenous people. Meanwhile, the excruciating pain of all cases is still acute, as the fate of thousands of disappeared people remains unknown, making the crime a continuous presence in the lives of the loved ones who lost. For the Secretary General, impunity compounds the suffering and the anguish. Under international human rights law, families and societies have a right to know the truth. And he called on member states to fulfill their responsibility. I want to flag one event for next week at 10 a.m. on Monday. The Secretary General will hold a virtual town hall meeting with women civil society groups in light of the COVID-19 crisis. As you know, the Secretary General's annual consultations with women's civil society during the Commission on the Status of Women was postponed earlier this year due to the pandemic and the lockdown in New York. So this town hall will provide an opportunity for women's civil society groups to engage with the Secretary General, share experiences with him on the impact of the pandemic and recommendations in addressing the crisis and building back better. That event will be live streamed on UN Web TV. And last but not least, we say thank you to our friends in Uganda for the full payment to the regular budget, bringing us up to the magic number of 111 fully paid up member states. Okay, let's go to the chat. Ooh, lots of chatter. Let's see. Okay. I can't really see what was for me. And okay, I'll start with Edie.
Thank you, Steph. A couple of questions. First, does the Secretary General have any reaction to Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's decision to step down early for health reasons? And after that, I have another question.
Of course, the Secretary General has been following the situation. He wishes Prime Minister Abe a full recovery, and we salute the Prime Minister's distinguished career as the longest-serving Japanese Prime Minister and his consistent and constructive engagement with the UN to address global challenges. I think the Secretary General has had a very productive relationship with Prime Minister Abe. They've worked closely on a number of issues. Notably, I would say, what comes to mind first is on the universal healthcare initiatives. Your second question, Edie.
Yeah, my second question is, normally during the time of the general debate, the Secretary General holds well over 100 bilateral meetings. Is he going to do bilateral virtual meetings this year? What's going to happen?
So, obviously everything is still in flux, but he's not going to, if he needs to, he will. But given that, given the time difference, given that people won't travel, he's not, one should not expect hundreds of Zoom, video calls that the Secretary General will be on. If people are here, he will obviously see them. But when he needs to talk to foreign leaders, he picks up the phone and talks to them. So the reason he has the bilaterals is because of the physical presence of heads of states, heads of governments, and foreign ministers. Without their physical presence, those bilaterals will likely not take place.
And as a quick follow-up, has he received any indication that any leaders will physically be present at UN headquarters?
No, nothing. Nothing confirmed at this point. I think we're still ways away from those confirmations, given the changing nature of what is going on with the pandemic and so on. Okay, Abdel Hamid and then Pam.
Thank you, Stéphane. I have two questions, one on Libya and one on Palestine. And I'll start with Libya. Yesterday, the forces of General Haftar fired a couple of missiles against the GNA forces west of Sirte. Apparently, General Haftar is trying to sabotage the momentum created by accepting ceasefire from both sides. Is there any contact with Haftar and trying to calm him down, because he opposed the ceasefire openly?
Well, we're aware of the position.
Did Mrs. Williams reach out to him?
I mean, Ms. Williams has been in touch, and her staff have been in touch with all the parties. Yes, of course. I mean, you can't. Of course, that includes Mr. Haftar's and his team. You know, we have seen since this latest round of violence really started in Libya, when the Secretary General was there more than a year ago, longer. At different points, different parties have aligned themselves towards a ceasefire. The work that we are leading, that we're working, our work in working cooperation with those member states who have an influence on the parties, is to make sure that all the fighting parties in Libya are aligned on the same, in the same place, which is accepting a cessation of hostilities, ceasefire, and restarting first and foremost, the 4+4 military format. Your second question.
Yes, Hamas issued a strong statement today against the report submitted by Mr. Mladinov to the Security Council on and again in his statement, which we just read, he again blamed the victims. He started with militants and he appealed to the militants, but why he did not mention straightforward, that is to blame the occupation and the siege imposed on Gaza.
I think he's been very clear in he's been, sorry, Edie's drinking a huge cup and I'm so distracting. She's front and center. Sorry, listen, I think he's been very clear on the need to lift the closure and all the measures and get the oil in. And his concern is first and foremost with the victims, with the civilians, right? That has been his message throughout. So that's where I stand. Toby, and then Pam.
Hi, Steph. Is there a readout of the Constitutional Committee talks, or where can we find more about the substance of those discussions?
Reach out to our colleague and our friend Jennifer Fenton at Mr. Pedersen's office in Geneva. If you don't have her contacts, we'll send them to you. Okay, Pam, and then Kristen.
Yes, hi, Steph. One substantive question and then more on the general debate. The question is, does the Secretary General have any comment on the military run-in between Russia and the United States in the deconfliction zone in Syria yesterday? Russia says the United States was violating rules of deconfliction. And then I'll ask the technical.
No particular comment except to call on all the parties to support what is going on in Geneva, so the Syrians can have a future of peace without any foreign interference, without any foreign armies on their soil. But no comment specific to that incident. And your second question?
Well, on that one, has anyone asked you, I mean, the Secretariat, the Secretary General, or any UN agency to determine who violated the rules in that case?
And that's not, we do not have a mandate. That is not we do not have a mandate in that area.
Wait, sorry, and now the technical question. Will press be allowed to bring cameras into the GA hall during the general debate? And and then a request, can UNTV do their usual thing, even though they're virtual talks, of showing the hall in case there's a virtual or real walkout?
Yeah, I mean, UNTV will cover as usual. We'll pass on that message. And for your first question, if you can just reach out to Tal, who has all the details.
Thanks so much.
Kristen Salome.
Hi, Stéphane. On the renewal of the UNIFIL mandate, looks like it gives the Secretary General 60 days to present a plan to better access southern Lebanon. How confident is he that that's possible given past issues attempting to do just that? I know his recommendations include some changes to equipment and things that presumably would require investment and funding. Given all that, I'm just wondering if he thinks he can live up to that request to present a plan for better access in 60 days.
You know, first of all, I don't want to get ahead of anything. Let's wait for the official announcement for that the resolution has been adopted, which I think is step one. From there, the Secretary General, the Secretariat will execute any requests given to it to report, to suggest, to do more work on this issue. If we're asked to report within 60 days, we'll report in the 60 days. Obviously, any work that we do in southern Lebanon on UNIFIL will also demand the cooperation of a number of key member states. But let's wait for the resolution, and we will, of course, abide by the requests and asks of the Security Council and its members. Iftikhar Ali and then Margaret Bashir.
Thank you, Steph. This is about UN anti-COVID operations in Myanmar, especially in Rakhine State. Do I take it that the protective gear and the relief material is being actually distributed by UN personnel to Rohingyas or through Myanmar authorities?
Sorry, what was the question?
I'm asking whether the protective gear and the relief material is being distributed by UN personnel in Rakhine State or through Myanmar authorities?
So it is through the UN and local partners.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Bashir.
Hi, Steph.
Morning.
Am I there? There we go.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
What's the status on the deployment to the safer oil tanker in Yemen? Have you gotten those?
Unfortunately, no update to share with you. Discussions are ongoing. Meanwhile, the tanker sits there with all the risks that we've talked about. Okay, Pam, did you have another question? Pamela?
Sorry, no, I'm all set. Thank you, Steph.
Okay, Kassim, Abdelhamid?
Yes, today, Stéphane, Greece announced the arrival of 7 fighting jets coming from United Arab Emirates to join the maneuvers. Turkey threatened that any UAE plane get closer to the border of Turkey will be shut down. So it is obvious the situation is escalating. And so far, we did not hear any word from the Secretary General or his good offices to talk, to call, to make forward, to try to...
I mean, I think the Secretary General is following this situation, especially as you mentioned, these heightened tensions we've seen in the last few days with concern. For him, it's critical that these differences be resolved peacefully. Our understanding is that Greece and Turkey have been engaged in bilateral discussions until recently, and he urges them to continue with that dialogue. He's also aware of diplomatic efforts being undertaken and supports these efforts that could contribute to a lowering of tensions in the region. Okay, any other questions? Excellent. We will advise you as to whether we may go on a lighter briefing schedule next week, as we usually do at the end of August. So we may not brief every day, but we'll send you a note by the end of today, and any updates will be posted on online. Okay, have a great end of August weekend. Bye.